Okay, boys, back out here. Got a torque wrench, got a socket. Actually got 3 torque wrenches. I got the deep well socket because I had a Harbor Freight torque wrench and I did it. You can't trust that. Then my buddy let me use his Sears, and halfway through I realized his lock is broken, so I didn't trust that. Adrian ended up bringing his over. So technically we've been over this thing 3 times. It clicks with no more torquing at 105. We're good. But now we gotta finish putting this together. We gotta put the rockers in and the cams in and torque it down. And then we can close this up. Probably put some spark plugs in there so nothing falls down in there. Oh, and by the way, I finally got a bolt. This thing spins nicely. I know a lot of you guys have been wanting to see that. Like, no pressure at all. This is so smooth. It's sick. I'm not gonna lie to you. You know, there's always that small chance, since we never actually turned it over with a wrench, we kind of were just using our hand, that it might have been binding up in one spot that you couldn't feel with your hand. Now that I can get a wrench and a bolt on there, it just moves pretty much with my finger. It's silky smooth. But alright, most of you guys are here for the part 2 of the head assembly. Let's get to that. Rockers. Gotta put rockers in there. I'm gonna put assembly grease on everything. Be generous. Get it on all these mating surfaces. Since these have been sitting for a while, I should probably check these, make sure they still compress. Oh yeah, they're good. Okay, I just checked those lifters real quick to make sure that they still compress since they've been sitting for a while. These things have been soaking in oil now for like 4 days, so we're gonna be good. I went through all of these, everything should be fine, but honestly, if you're gonna have one that you're questioning, don't put it on the back, because you won't be able to get to it. It drives me nuts that these like don't snap into place. Got the rockers in. I'm gonna be your guys' guinea pig, okay? We read the book. The book says put the cams in, then buy a special tool to push the cam seals on. I have like 4 sets of cam seals because the book only explains how to replace like a leaky seal. And I think they're trying to explain on how to do that without taking everything apart. Am I making sense? Saying that? The book tells you how to replace a seal with your valve cover on. It doesn't tell you how to assemble one when you're like rebuilding an engine. So I think we're gonna be safe if it leaks. I'll buy the tool, I'll walk you guys through that at a later date. You see how there's like different steps there, and then it kind of stops right there. So what I think we're going to do is sit it on there, like right where it needs to be, which is right there to that lip. The problem you're gonna have is if you don't have that in there straight, it's gonna leak. So I got a piece of PVC pipe, and then once we get the cam cap on, we'll square it up before we torque it down. And if it leaks, you know you gotta buy the tool. I'll be your guys' guinea pig. I don't see no reason to buy a special tool to put these cam seals on after it's all together and pretty much in the car, is the way the book's explaining to you how to do it. We already have it all torn apart. Same thing with these end caps. This is the rear head, so you only got one because your cast or your distributor cap, whatever you want to call it, goes there and it seals. They're right here. You get 3 of them in your kit. One just goes in there, and then 2 on these front ones. And then you just have these cam seals. You also want to have a bunch of oil on this, or grease. Just the inside though, don't get the outside. The outside's got to seal tight. So take like a rag with some alcohol on there and clean all this off. Same thing with your caps. So when you press that in, it's tight and sealed. Clean all this surface right here, because that's where the seal's gonna go. Just take some alcohol and get that all dry. You can clean that top later. You're gonna put silicone around these end caps. Okay, put your cams back in. Make sure all your rockers stay in place. They will fall off. Get your intake cam in. Make sure it's got the little notch in there for the cast or the distributor. Now they're only gonna wanna go in one way now because you got the rockers in there. It sits on them. Get your assembly lube. You just need a little bit on these now. They just kind of sit on there. Drives me nuts. Now get your middle caps. They're marked again, and let's put them in order. They actually kind of go from the back of the engine on the rear head. So like this is 4. Just follow the arrows too. That's the easier way to explain it. As long as your arrows are going the same way. You kind of got to go back and forth so it sandwiches it down, because right now you got tension. If you do all this side, this one won't go down easy. It should be final time that these are going in. Double check your work. Okay, you gotta clean your end caps too, because you're gonna put silicone on these ends, and you want that cam seal, the seal, tight in there. The only place you're gonna want lube is right there in that journal. Again, I'm your guinea pig. I'm not using the tool. I can just see that there's steps in there. I don't know if it's gonna show up on camera. You see there's just a little tiny step right there? That's where this is gonna stay. Or I'm completely wrong, it's supposed to stay way out here, which I don't think so. We looked up pictures and everything looks like it's indented. The only thing you're gonna have to do is probably square it up. Same thing with these. Adrian's gonna put oil on the shaft. That one was a little tough, so I'm putting oil on the inside of this one too. Yeah, that one went a lot smoother. Put oil on both parts. I hope this is in frame. It's gonna be super hard for me to show you guys. See how there's just another step right there? You'll be able to see it in person. Guess we can kind of get this squared up with the bottom. The problem is that I'd rather have to push it in more once the caps are on. I'm gonna leave them pulled out a little bit and then I'll finish pushing them in once the caps are on. You see how that line's just a little pea size from the cap over to the dowel pin? Now he's gonna put that on there. We haven't torqued anything down yet. We're just getting stuff snug. All of these need that. Just a little bit on there. I might not be putting enough, to be honest with you. Leave it down in the comments. I just don't want to have to deal with a shit ton of silicone right next to my valves. Okay, I'm just gonna go around with this little baby one and get all these snug. You want to go back and forth again because it's going to want to teeter-totter. So do like this and that. You're like sandwiching it down like a seesaw. Alright, give that silicone like 4 more minutes. I'll bring you right back. Okay, here's your guinea pig experiment that we're doing for you guys. I'll put the exact size of this coupler up on the screen, but this is what I'm using. It's like 8 cents. We pushed them in until they stopped while they're just hand snug. And then to make sure we didn't push in too far, they stopped. They like hit a wall. It's like, unless you're hitting it with a hammer, I think it's gonna be impossible for you to push it in too far. Just do this and then kind of just feel it snap. And then we took this one off just to make sure we didn't push too far. And you don't need to spend $100 on a tool that you're gonna use once every 8 years. Boom, right there on that lip. Grab that light. You see where it stopped right at that lip? It's gonna be hard to see on camera with that silicone, but it's perfectly squared up. So that's the way we're doing it. If it leaks, you guys know I'll let you know. But while I sit here and try to order a tool that Mitsubishi is gonna charge a bunch of money for, that you're never gonna use, besides once. I just got these hand snug right now, and then as soon as it oozed out just a little bit, I'm going through and wiping this, because I don't want a bunch of silicone in my valve train. I thought you guys would be able to see it on camera, but I literally just have a faint line in between there. Okay, now start these down. Start in the middle, work your way out. This is 8. Okay, everything's torqued. Just make sure these are in there, square. Where's your little doohickey? So we got a caliper. We're gonna measure it. Top is what?
0.16.
Okay. Make sure you're not in like those little holes.
I can feel.
0.16, 0.16.
The bottom's hard though.
Alright, the bottom on that one's 0.18. The top's 0.16. I'm just gonna give her a little baby taste. Oh, there she goes. She just stopped. Everything works out to be 0.17. If you check, make sure everything's in square. So we're good. Okay, you're gonna want to clean all these mating surfaces and then clean around your spark plugs so they seal real nice. And then you're pretty much ready for the valve cover. You don't have to go back in here ever again until you break something. While Adrian's cleaned that up, I'm gonna get this valve cover cleaned up and ready to go on. I got all new everything. These got freaking 30 miles on them. Make sure everything gets snugged. The book Adrian just showed me says that you're supposed to put silicone on this rubber gasket on these corners. I didn't do it on this Velcro one and it didn't leak, but the book says to do it and this is OEM seal, so I'm gonna do what the book says.
Just down a little bit, that's it.
They're not the same bolts that go in the middle. The middles have a dish on them. It's gonna be hard for me to show you, but the middles have like a dish on them. The tops are rounded at the top, or the outside's rounded at the top. What is the actual torque?
2.2 foot-pounds. I always hate running. Yeah, it does.
Okay, time to put spark plugs in. I went with 30 to 31. I used like one of those generic gap tools. So I had the back of it at 29, the middle of it was right at 30, the other edge of it was at 31. So it's somewhere in that ballpark between 29 and 31. What's the torque? We're doing everything by the book.
I cannot find a torque for this. I love it.
Google spark plug torque. Nothing about spark plugs is in the book. It doesn't tell you gap, it doesn't tell you what brand, it doesn't tell you nothing. I'll be honest with you guys, I have a habit of overdoing spark plugs because one time when I was younger, I didn't put a spark plug in all the way and it blew it right out of the head on startup on a dirt bike, and I had to buy a new head. Ever since then, I've always just really over-torqued them, but I don't want to do that on this, especially with aluminum head and all that good jazz. You should be able to tell because there's crush washers on there. You should be able to feel the washer crush. Alright boys, I think I'm going to end that video here. There's your part 2, how to assemble a head. I just got to do the same exact thing on the other head. And then we're going to start reassembling everything else. Water pump, timing belts, gears, all that good jazz. Exhaust, turbos, all the mounting brackets. Throw a transmission on this thing, throw some oil in it, throw it in the car. See you guys in the next one.